details, just an opinion here at the workbench. And what are we looking at today? We are looking at a Glock 21. And this is a pretty new Glock 21. You may have seen my unboxing video not too long ago. And in that unboxing video, I pointed out that the front sight was damaged when I received it. So I did make a notification to Glock. I let them know via email that the front sight was damaged and showed them a picture of it, close up, which I will also insert here. But they were very responsive and accommodating, and their customer service has not diminished in these very busy times, and they sent me a new front sight. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to change the front sight. Now, to do that, we're going to need a few tools. We're going to need a front sight, which is the replacement that Glock sent to me. We are going to need some Loctite or similar product to lock our threads down, basically adhesive. And we are also going to need a front sight tool. Whenever you're dealing with a Glock front sight, you'll need a front sight tool. It has a special hex head. And we will need a torque wrench capable of at least 110 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, I'm kidding. We don't really need a torque wrench, but you know, I don't get to use it that often. I thought I'd bring it out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to remove the slide. And we are going to disassemble the slide in terms of its major components. Alright, so now we have basically a field stripped front sight, field stripped front sight. We have a field stripped slide, and we are going to just simply do a quick and hopefully easy replacement. This is not quite as interesting or extravagant as replacing Glock standard sights with a third-party aftermarket sight. I do hope to be doing that sometime in the near future, and I will definitely share that experience. But right now, I'm still trying to decide between, you know, the different options out there, which sight I'm going to want to replace. And really, I'm leaning toward Meprolites. I really like the Meprolite True Dot sights, so I'm leaning heavily toward those. Maybe a Novak. So I don't know. We'll decide. So when we do that, I will definitely do a video, and that'll be more involved because we'll be also changing the rear sight, and that requires a special tool called a sight press, which I do happen to have for Glocks, but we don't have to use that today. Alright, so step number one, and I don't know how well this will show on video, but right, let me get a little Glock tool here as a pointer. Right here, there's a very, very shallow hex head, screw head, and that is the screw that is holding on the front sight. And the screw basically is a post that goes up through the front sight on a Glock. So if you're not familiar with ever having done any work on changing a sight or messing with a sight, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically there's an oval hole, which you'll see when we get this one off, that the sight fits through. It sits on a foot, if you will, that fits down into this oval hole, and then the screw goes up into it from underneath. So I am going to just, using my front sight tool, to unscrew the sight. Another thing of note, start unscrewing that sight. You don't feel the snap of a, wow, the Loctite just broke free, or something of that nature. It's a pretty steady, even feel to unscrewing it. So here is the screw and the sight that I just removed. I'm going to go ahead and keep them together as a matched pair and set that aside. And like I say, I will do a I'll insert either a previous close-up, or I will do a new one that shows the burrs, just some of the markings that were on that. It was just a little annoying, and actually, it was pretty visible when you used the sight. Okay, so another thing we should do is we should clean the area where we intend to apply the new sight. Now, the new sight has, let me balance it on my finger here. If you see the white portion at the bottom, let me go to where I'm probably going to be a little out of focus. Bear with me, I'll see if I can bring this in sharply. Alright, so you can see the little white foot at the bottom of the sight, and that is oval shaped, and that goes through the oval hole in your slide. Okay, maybe we can see them both there. Yeah, probably okay, decent enough, right? So we're going to push that through, and that you simply, of course, you want the dot facing back, right? So sight isn't going to be much good to you if you actually put the sight on backwards. That would be kind of funny. That would be kind of funny to do. Alright, so you want to line the sight up pretty straight, but again, because it's an oval hole and it's an oval fit, you really can't have it crooked or have any real play in it. So then I'm going to back the focus off here a little bit, go back down to about this level, I guess. Hopefully we're sharp. Yeah, let's see. Nothing more annoying than watching an out of focus video. Right? How's that? Better? Okay. Alright. So the next step is looking at it from underneath now. You can see that white little oval foot sticking through. It actually doesn't stick through, it just sort of sits flush, but it's about the same thickness as the metal in the slide. So now we're going to take our screw and we're going to apply just a tiny bit of Loctite, just a drop, because we want it to stay. And what I like to do is put the screw into the tool and then just kind of hold it there, making this all sound much easier than it looks, aren't I? Alright. There we go. Alright, I'll just hold that there a bit, and I'm going to just put a drop of Loctite actually on the sight. Just going to drip it in that hole. The reason I choose to do it this way, as opposed to putting it on the threads, it's just easier. I am all about easier. So you see the red there, we have that red Loctite in our new sight. It's down into the threaded hole, and then we have our new screw ready to go. So to keep the screw from falling out, I'm just going to tip this over. And let's find where we need to start it. Pretty simple. Sorry, probably went terribly out of focus. And hopefully the light is still okay. So what I'm doing now is I am just gently turning the screw up into the sight and keeping my finger on top. You can see that it wants to push it through a little bit. Now what should happen is when that screw hits home, it should suck that sight back down in very nicely. And you can actually see a little bit of the, if I do it this way, this might be a good view. Let me just focus just a little bit here. This might be the best way to show this. So you can see I'm turning the screw and at the same time pushing down on the sight. Okay. I don't have a great feel. I haven't done a lot of these, but now we're starting to tighten up. So there we go. Getting nice and snug. So what I was about to say is I don't have a great feel for how tight these feel when they're tight. And I certainly don't want to strip it. What you've got is a metal screw going into a plastic sight, and could be a little straighter. There is some room for these to get crooked, so it is a possibility. So you want your sight to be nice and straight, of course. All right. The heads on these screws, if you've not done this yourself, the heads on these screws are extremely thin. They have to be because you can see how little area there is here between the top of the slide and your barrel. And the barrel actually needs that room. I've had some that aftermarket products. I won't mention the brand right now because I don't feel like being mean, but where the screw head was too thick and it actually impeded the action of the firearm, and that was not good. Alright, so that is it. New sight is in place. It is down flush and snug. We have some Loctite on it, and I'm going to let that set a little bit, and then I'll just clean up with a little bit of rubbing alcohol to get the any little extra Loctite that's on there. So that is it. Replacing the front sight is easy, relatively speaking. Replacing the rear sight obviously is a little more complicated for a couple of reasons. Number one, you do need a special tool that's a little harder to come by than this. This is the front sight tool. A lot of people make a front sight tool, and they're easy to find and very affordable to pick up. But the let me focus back down here. All right. The rear sight tool, or rear sight press, as they'll call it, is more expensive. You can expect to spend, I would expect to spend at least $100 on a good rear sight press, and there's a lot more to putting a rear sight on because you got to get it just so. So okay, so there we go. We now have, let's see if we can really try to show you a good sight picture here and deal with how we're focused. we go. So again, this was just a stock to stock replacement. So nothing real special or fancy about that, but stay tuned, because as soon as my budget gets a little slack in it, I'm going to pick up a set of, like I say, probably Mepro lights or Novak night sights. I really like the Mepro True Dots though. Those are awesome, and I'm going to swap those out. So we will definitely have a to be continued portion that covers that. So there we go. Put our little stand back here, and that is it. We have replaced the front sight on our Glock 21. Thank you, Glock, for responding quickly to the request and providing the new sight, and we should be in good shape.